So it happened. I relapsed. All the progress after 150 days went down the toilet. Or is it? Well, you see, I think that this relapse taught me more than going 1 year of NoFap, going another 30 days of NoFap. And I think if you're someone who struggles with porn, with fapping, with anything related to lust, you'll find this video more helpful than just watching motivational videos on someone reaching 100 days, 1000 days. Because it disclosed me a lot of my problems, a lot of my traumas. And I think moving forward, I will learn from them, I will implement these problems, and it will translate not only to my porn addiction, but also to my life, how I'm coping with life stresses, how I cope with certain triggers that appear, and so on. And by the way, when I relapsed, I did it without porn. So I kind of, got into mood. I started fapping, and I stopped, but I reached the point of no return, and so it happened, right? And after that, I relapsed 2 more times sequentially in the span of 30 minutes. And the first good thing about it is because even though I relapsed, technically I relapsed only this time in 150 days, but I was playing with fire before that. To be fair, I peaked at porn only once throughout this 150 days, and it was after the strongest emotional blow in a long time. I was ghosted by the girl that I thought I was going to marry. I literally planned proposing to her in a few years' time, but I was so sure. And when she ghosted me, I just went to my old coping mechanism, which I thought I got rid of, but it proved to be where. However, I learned from that experience. I didn't relapse, and I thought what else can happen? Nothing else can make me emotional anymore, because the worst thing that could happen happened. So I think what was the problem is that I kind of let myself go. Now, if I didn't relapse, these kind of things would go under the radar, right? But because I relapsed, now I'm forced to look back at myself and see where did it all went wrong. It's time for self-reflection. It's time to go back to the drawing board, to square one, and to see what could I do? How could I improve? And the first thing that I realized is that I kind of have to crucify my flesh. That's how Christians view discipleship of Jesus Christ. And I had this one client last week where we talked about it, and he said that he doesn't feel like he fully crucified his flesh, even though he has tactics, even though he made some progress. He doesn't feel like he made the final kind of act of crucifying his flesh. And I was working with this guy for over 5 months now. The funny thing happened last week is that I think I gave him such good advice. We made a custom plan for him. He said he feels this time is going to be different. But a few days pass, and this guy writes in the community that I host that, well, he relapsed. And it got me thinking, as a Christian, how do I ensure that I crucify my flesh? And I realized that it's not a singular act. That Aristotle said, excellence is not an act, but a habit. And where is this quote in the Bible? It's Luke chapter 9, verse 23, where it said, "Then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny their flesh, or themselves, take up their cross and follow me daily." So I came to realize that crucifying my flesh, talking in the context of porn addiction, is every single act, every single decision, every single micro thought that I have. And every single moment when I'm awake, I'm presented with an opportunity to crucify my flesh with my actions and thoughts. So coming back to my relapse, I realized that with my decisions, even though I wasn't relapsing, but I was inviting it. I wasn't crucifying my soul. I was, even though I didn't watch porn, I didn't masturbate, I was using a lot of especially secular music, listening to it all of the time, and I feel lonely or stressed or bored. It became my new addiction, and I somewhat have an addictive personality. I should take a test on ADHD, but I did a test. It's not an official diagnosis, but I have a lot of tendencies for someone with ADHD. Even though I don't use TikTok, I don't watch short form content, I went on dopamine detox for a long time. And I still am really fast to get hooked on dopamine inducing activities. So that's the first thing. I listened to a lot of music, especially when I was stressed. Music in and of itself is I don't think it's bad, but it's a coping mechanism. Back in the day, it was video games, social media, all these sorts of things can indirectly lead to porn, because once music stops, once you stop playing that video game, you are left a little bit empty, a little bit bored. And what is the easiest, most pleasurable thing that you can access literally right now? Well, it's lust. It's thinking about porn, it's having those fantasies. And then you have your phone nearby, you compulsively reach out for your phone and you go and type whatever you had in your mind. There's no way you can get yourself out of it if you are not thinking about these things consciously. So the first point that I want to emphasize in this video is that even though you may not watch porn, even though you may not masturbate, but you may come back to it every once in a while just because you replaced porn with some other addiction, right? And right now, I decided to go completely without music. I remember going for a month without it, and I know that it's just the first few days, first few weeks, and you just kind of want to go back to your old ways, and after that, it's just really, it really doesn't bother you that much. Now, another point that I want to make in this video is that a relapse is a good thing, and I already presented my arguments for that, but there's another reason why it's a good thing. You see, one time I was going for my daily bike ride at night, and I was driving through my neighborhood. I had my headphones in, and suddenly I see a person in the weeds, and he started shouting at me. I went right through him, but on the way back home, I decided to take out my headphones and listen to what this guy has to say. And it appeared to me that he was holding onto some metal construction ware, and he was actually asking me for help because he drank too much. He was an alcoholic, right? He wanted some help getting back home. And I decided to do it. I decided to take him back home, and I used my bike as a walker that you see old people use. He grabbed onto the steering wheel and I pushed the bike towards his home. Now the important thing here is that on the way, I talked to him. As a med student, I kind of took his anamnesis. I talked about what happened, why is he addicted? And what he said, it broke my heart, obviously. He said that his wife left. I believe he has a daughter that doesn't speak to him anymore. I realized that he's living in a shithole, absolute shithole. And I was like, why don't you change anything? And the reason he didn't change is because he doesn't want to. He has no reason for change. One thing that he told me really stuck with me. He said, I could absolutely beat this addiction, but I have no reason for it. There's nothing else I can do to do it. So I just indulge in instant gratification, but I don't want to stop doing it. And usually that's someone that you cannot help if you want to help him quit his addiction. The person has to have internal motivation. And the biggest motivator is when you reach the bottom. And then you have something to start your journey upwards from. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this story is because I felt when I relapsed, I felt like I reached that bottom. And you know this Gen Z vocabulary, and where's the word lock in? And I felt like I had to lock in. To be fair, I was slacking on a lot of things. I was neglecting my workouts. I didn't work out for 3 months because I was coping and saying that I need to work on my business right now. I was even slacking off on my hygiene, to be fair. And this relapse put things into perspective. Right now, I worked out 3 times this past week in this exact room. If you want, I can show you the barbell that I used for bicep curls. Right? I still feel sore in my muscles, and it feels great. And I found this new motivation to become the best version of myself. Before the relapse, I kind of lost that. And this relapse, ironically, brought me back to locking in and taking serious care of myself. Alright, and the third point that I want to make in this video is that now, a lot of people who suffer from porn, from fapping, they use it as a coping mechanism, as a solution for loneliness. One of the biggest promises that you get by these YouTubers, and me included, who go on an extensive NoFap streak, is that you will get into a relationship. You'll stop being as lonely. To be fair, that happened much more than I would have believed when I started. But at the same time, even though you get more attention, you start experiencing those emotional roller coasters. Because at least for me, even though I got to talk to more girls, I also got ghosted more. It took such a big toll on me. I spent most of my nights thinking about what do I need to do for them to like me? What do I need to do for them to respond to me? Why do I keep getting ghosted? And I do another sin. I go onto social media. I see my friends posting pictures with their girlfriends and stuff like that. And I get even more lonely. How do you think I'll eventually cope with that? Of course, with some porn. Just because I want that intimacy after a long time. So what I decided to do next is to have very low expectations first. And another thing is to just stop interacting and messaging girls as much. In 1 week, I had 3 girls that I contacted, that I messaged, and then got ghosted. I decided to take no less than 2 week breaks from going from one girl to another girl. My sanity is worth more than like messaging some girl that couldn't care if I lived or died. And another important thing that I had to realize is that it's good that I'm lonely. It's good that I'm stressed. It's good that I'm bored. Why? Because only through pain will I learn like coping mechanisms. Will I learn lessons that will serve me for the rest of my life. To be fair, I went to clubs, right? I had more friends, I had more socialization than I probably ever had. And I still felt lonely. And I came to the realization that's not about how much friends you have or how many times you go out a week, but it's like internal thing. You will have to face like loneliness, to sitting alone in the room by yourself. You'll have to face it. And I know people who are like addicted to socialization because being alone, being bored is like the death sentence to them. And the mindset shift that I had is that I should seek loneliness. I should be grateful for it. I should like smile in the rain. I should go outside for a walk, feel lonely, imagine everyone else like cuddling in a relationship, going on dates, and being okay with that. And now, like, I consciously know that in the evening, I'll get lonely, I'll get more stressed, right? And I'm emotionally preparing for that. And I'm inviting that to happen. Like, God, please give me more pain. Please give me more struggle, right? I want to prove to you that my faith is like strong. And so yeah, that's basically my thoughts after relapsing after 150 days of NoFap. If you want some help like quitting porn, quitting fapping, you can join the free community in the description down below. For now, God bless and see you next time.